Jyotiraditya Scindia, Jitin Prasad, a long list of those who are very important in the new Congress scheme of things, and most importantly, very close to Rahul Gandhi. Personal friends, the closest associates of Rahul Gandhi walking out on the Congress party. Yesterday, when the Congress's list of star campaigners for Uttar Pradesh came out, RPN Singh's name was on that list. Today, political circles in Delhi were abuzz with the theory first that RPN was going to jump ship, which he did in the afternoon. He says he's proud to be part of the BJP as he goes about building a new India. But it left Congress old-timers just scratching their head and wondering if those who are closest to Rahul Gandhi don't believe in his leadership, don't believe in the way the party is being run. What about all those who are on the margins, who don't have the kind of access to Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi that the likes of RPN do? If RPN is not inspired by the leadership of the Gandhis, who will?
He was the go-to man for the Gandhis. Seen side by side with them, steering the campaign. A true Congress loyalist. Until Monday evening, he was in the Congress list of star campaigners. On Tuesday morning came the stunning jolt for the Gandhis. RPN Singh, a key member of the Rahul Brigade, announced he was leaving the Congress. To drive in the knife, hours later, Singh was in the BJP office sitting alongside Nadda and others.
It was absolutely clear and imperative the party I joined is not remain the party it is, and it is not with the same thought process that we wish to work. It is not the same party.
RPN Singh was not just another Congress leader leaving the party. A staunch congressman for 3 decades, the Raja Sahab of Padrauna held key portfolios in UPA government. Just 2 years back, Singh was credited with the Congress resurgence in Jharkhand. With just over 2 weeks to go for the UP elections to begin, Singh is now on the other side, the latest from the Congress to join Team Modi.
हमारे ओजस्वी प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जो कहा था, जब केंद्र से 1 रुपया चलता है तो आम गरीब आदमी का, पडरौना के गरीब आदमी तक भी वो 1 रुपया पहुंचता है, दलाली उस पैसे की नहीं होती। आज जो गरीब, शोषित, पिछड़े, अगड़े आम जन तक जो कार्य हैं केंद्र सरकार के, वो उनके घर तक पहुंचते हैं, कोई बिचौलियों की जरूरत नहीं होती।
For the BJP, which has weaned away other key Congress leaders like Scindia and Jitin Prasada, it is yet another strategic victory.
मैं बहुत दोनों को धन्यवाद देता हूं। सिंधिया जी पहले आगे थे और आरपीएन सिंह जी जैसे व्यक्ति भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आना, मोदी जी की नेतृत्व को स्वीकार करना, ये एक शुभ संकेत है।
So will it be one turncoat against another? Speculations are that BJP might field Singh against ex-BJP minister Swami Prasad Maurya, who's now in SP.
Are you going to contest the Padrauna seat?
That is something the party will decide, not me.
पडरौना से ही लड़ेंगे ना, वो सीट आपकी स्थिर रहेगी।
समाजवादी पार्टी की राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष तय करेंगे हम कहां से लड़ेंगे। वहां जो भी आएगा वो हारेगा, समाजवादी पार्टी कैंडिडेट जीतेगा।
Dazed and checkmated by the BJP, the Congress fumed at Singh's sudden exit.
Fight a battle as strongly pitched as this one. You have to fight it with courage. You have to fight it with a lot of dedication. I don't think this is meant for the coward.
Until now, the Gandhi siblings have been dismissive of those deserting the Congress.
हमारे यहाँ डर रहे हो तो बाहर निकालो, चलो भैया जाओ, आरएसएस के हो जाओ, भागो, मजे लो, नहीं चाहिए, जरूरत नहीं है तुम्हारी, हमें निडर लोग चाहिए, ये हमारी आइडियोलॉजी है, ये मेरा बेसिक मैसेज है।
मैंने एक भी बार किसी को रोकने का प्रयास नहीं किया, क्योंकि जो संघर्ष हम कर रहे हैं, जो आज कांग्रेस पार्टी कर रही है, वो बुजदिलों का संघर्ष नहीं है, कायरों का संघर्ष नहीं है, वो एक ऐसा संघर्ष में है, अगर आपका दिल है, मन है और आप में साहस है तब करिए, नहीं है तो खुशी से जाइए।
RPN Singh's desertion is bound to hurt the party in more ways than one, especially because he's joining the BJP at a time Priyanka Gandhi is putting her might behind the effort to revive the party in Uttar Pradesh. With camera person Deepak Bisht, Paulami Saha in Delhi for India Today.
So why did RPN Singh leave? What were his specific problems with the leadership style of the Gandhis and the manner in which the Congress was being run? And most importantly, what does this mean in the overall scheme of things for national politics? What does this mean for the Uttar Pradesh battle? And what does this mean for the Congress government in Jharkhand, where the Congress is part of an alliance with the JMM and the RJD, because RPN was a key player there. Joining me to talk about this, I want to welcome first Rajdeep Sardesai, India's foremost political commentator, also our national affairs editor Rahul Srivastav. With us for political perspective on this is Dr. Jaykumar. He's currently a spokesperson of the Congress but has some experience being in and out of the grand old party. Rakesh Sinha joins us, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament of the BJP. Sanjay Jha joins us, a political analyst at this moment, but he calls himself a life-term congressman. So I want to go across to Rajdeep first to try and understand why RPN left, because he's been unhappy for the last several years. There have been rumors many a time before this that RPN would jump ship. He denied it at that time, but always would be unhappy with the way things are being run. Why is it that you think that this is the moment that RPN said, enough is enough, I've had enough of the Gandhis, I've had enough of the Congress, and this is my time to go?
You know, Rahul, it's significant that the last two high-profile exits in a way of this Gen Next of the Congress, people considered close to Rahul Gandhi, have been from Uttar Pradesh. Jitin Prasad 6 months ago, and now RPN Singh. They both come from a state where the Congress at the moment is a marginal entity. The fact is, despite Priyanka Gandhi's high voltage campaign, in a way her best efforts, the Congress is not the main player in Uttar Pradesh's politics as of now. So for RPN Singh, who is a politician, like most politicians, looking for a clear career path, Uttar Pradesh was never going to be his karma bhumi that would yield political rewards. So there's that angle, which is the careerist angle. But I think the bigger challenge is the organizational problem, because RPN Singh was a general secretary in charge of Jharkhand, a state where there is a Congress government in alliance at the moment. So it's not as if he was totally marginal within the Congress. The problem is that I think leaders like RPN Singh today feel that A, there is a old guard of the Congress that refuses to give way, doesn't go into a Margdarshak Mandal, and there are those around Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra who, in a way, according to the RPNs of the world, lack the political maturity or lack the political strategic sense to actually try and pull the Congress out of the morass that they have. And since RPN Singh himself does not have that kind of political equity, he's not a political heavyweight, they don't know how to do it themselves. The party seems unable to do it, so they're stuck. When you're stuck in an organization which doesn't seem to grow, which is not moving back to the next level, which shows no signs of recovery, what do you do? So if you're going to look at politics purely as careerism, then I think for the likes of RPN Singh and Jitin Prasad, the Congress in its present form meant hitting a brick wall. And because they find themselves now alienated both from the old guard as well as the new coterie around the Gandhis, I think they've looked for fresh pastures. It's clearly a move designed to try and get some kind of political relevance rather than find themselves stuck and fighting a mighty force like the BJP with a weakened Congress, particularly in a state like Uttar Pradesh.
And remember, Swami Prasad Maurya and RPN Singh both come from the same general area, and in particular they fought in Padrauna. And Swami Prasad Maurya leaving the BJP, going to the Samjwadi Party, opened up a window of opportunity for RPN and made the BJP more keen on him, because if both of them were in the same party at the same time, it didn't really serve BJP's purpose as much as it does now, where you've got an OBC leader in that area. He comes from the royal family and therefore has influence in that local area, and the timing was just right from the BJP's perspective, and RPN had been waiting for his chance. Sanjay Jha, you're in touch with several present and former members of the Congress. What do you think went wrong in RPN's case? He is in many ways, one of those who were closest to the younger Gandhis, and him walking out at a time when Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is putting the kind of focus that she is in Uttar Pradesh, when she said that everybody is on hot dial with me, they have my WhatsApp number, they can call, and yet RPN choosing to walk out is a big vote of no confidence in the ability of the younger Gandhis to steer the ship in the future.
Well, Rahul, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I have requested some of the people whom I know very well in the Congress to kindly not trash RPN and call him a turncoat or an opportunist or somebody who's been a coward. I don't quite agree with that. The truth is, and this is the hard reality that all of us know, let's not pretend that in India, ideological fidelity is an oxymoron. This is an election season, and we are seeing how people are just switching parties left, right, and center. Rajdeep's own state of Goa is, in fact, I think, a monumental mammoth joke. So the bottom line is very straightforward. And that is that power is the glue in politics, in Indian politics more so. And I think what is happening in the Congress party is the fact that, when you look at an RPN or Jitin, Jyotiraditya, etc., I think, when you don't see hope, in my opinion, the key word is hope. You see, people are willing to hang around with you and be there for the long haul if they see a fight, if they see the vigor, there is something going on. Rajdeep said organizational, kind of atrophy which is going on. These are things that send a very negative signal. My friend Ajoy, who's on the show, left for AAP, has come back, but there are not going to be too many people like that. And I think the principal reason behind that is actually quite laughable, which is that the leadership in the party, which I'll be very frank, I like Rahul personally. I'm very fond of him at a very personal level, but Rahul doesn't engage with his own team. Now, you can't take on the BJP on tweets and, campaigns. There's a lot of good stuff he's doing, but you need to get your house in order. You see, we are the challenger party, and I keep saying the word we because I'm ideologically with the Congress, will always be. But Rahul, you and Rajdeep also follow sports. If you're a challenger, you need to be fighting fit. You need to be charged up. The captain of the team has to keep the flock together. This whole excuse that, it's an ideological battle. Well, to win that ideological battle against the BJP, you got to win elections. The reason why, today people are talking about Hindutva is because Mr. Modi has won 14 and 19. If the Congress were to win, they wouldn't be talking about that as much. So I think the story is being lost for one simple reason. Why is the leadership not engaging with the people? I have told the leadership in categorical terms, I'll share it with you on India Today. G23 is not going anywhere. Nobody wants to split the party. Nobody is ideologically opposed to the Congress. But, if you don't even talk to a Manish, a Milind, Mr. Kapil Sibal, Anand Sharma, Ghulam Nabi Azad, and who do you talk to? I mean, these are veterans, to laugh them off and say they don't have political capital on the ground is ridiculous. There are 4 or 5 ex-chief ministers in G23. Why does Rahul Gandhi and the team not talk to people directly? I have no answers for that. Honestly, I'm nonplussed. And today I'm terribly disappointed because I know RPN, Jitin and Jyotiraditya, and I will say it on record. They were very nice people. They continue to be good people. And it's advantage BJP. And the Congress today is a loser.
Sure. And RPN, remember, had been in the Congress for 32 years. And therefore, this is a 3-decade plus long journey that's now come to an end. Ajay Kumar, you've been in this spot. You left the Congress, you came back. You were also at a time disillusioned with the Congress. Your thoughts, because RPN was, as minister in different capacities in the UPA. He'd been Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways. He was Minister for Petroleum, Natural Gas, Corporate Affairs. Then he became Minister of State for Home Affairs. He held prominent portfolios, but that was in the past. At the present and in the future, he clearly saw no hope for himself in the way that the Congress was being set up for the future.
So, Rahul, first of all, a couple of misconceptions. I have a lot of respect for Sanjay on the call. And I can say it, I've seen it from both sides. The reason when I left the party, and I made it very clear that one of the bravest guys, you may not agree with me, you may try to laugh it off, but one of the bravest, straightest, nicest guy is Rahul Gandhi. The problem is that in this politics of today, that niceness seems to be a huge disadvantage. And it's ridiculous, if you have a leadership like Mr. Modi and Amit Shah, and if you think that is a very enlightened or a decentralized leadership, I would actually fall off this chair. And Sanjay, I'm sure, and I don't know whether you would, but a lot of us would fall off the chair laughing, because leadership is not telling lies. Leadership is not selling hatred. And in terms of access, if look, Rajdeep put it correctly. They looked at political positioning. They looked at their immediate gains, and they left the party. Now, that's their choice, and that's. But to say that the leadership and everybody who's been in the Congress and out of Congress, whether it's Mrs. Gandhi, whether it's the top leadership, whether it's G23, there is not. It cannot be more democratic in that. You cannot speak against Mr. Modi and Amit Shah, and then you say about democracy in the Congress. Believe me, in a meeting in the CWC, which I have the, because I'm in charge of Tripura, Nagaland, and Sikkim, I have the fortune of being a permanent invitee on it. The discussions are, the last discussions were so, were hard and tough. And up to the point, so the first misconception is whether...
No, but you don't need to explain this to us.
Let me I'll just complete it.
Let's remember, Ajoy, you don't have to convince Rajdeep and me. Just hear me what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm basically making the point that these are your party men. They are leaving. So they obviously see the democracy you talk about. They see the ability to speak. They're seeing what's happening inside the BJP, and they like what they see on Modi's side more than what they like on Rahul Gandhi's side.
So that's very rich when you say Harak Singh Rawat came from Uttarakhand, and what did they see in the BJP? What did Swami Maurya see in the BJP? Bigger leaders than Mr. RPN Singh? Harak Singh Rawat, bigger leaders than RPN Singh? So my question again is, whether it is loads of people leaving in Punjab from the Aam Aadmi, whether there are loads of people leaving the BJP in the Uttar Pradesh, whether loads of people leaving from BJP, the chief minister of BJP in Goa leaving, no questions asked on leadership, my friend. So I think it's rich in terms of this discussion we are having today, that RP Singh is not a patch. I mean, RPN Singh is, and I wish him the best. I'm not going to make a personal comment. But the issue is he bigger than Harak Singh Rawat in Uttarakhand? No. Is he bigger than Swami Prasad Maurya? No. Is he more bigger than Saini? No. The issue is then whose leadership is floundering in Uttar Pradesh? Is it Yogi Modi? No discussion. So my question to all my enlightened colleagues is, where is the discussion on Goa? Manohar Parrikar's son walks away. He said Lakshmikant Parrikar walks away as chief minister. Guys who are joining. So Rahul, if you're looking at leadership crisis, please look at leadership crisis of Yogi and Modi in Uttar Pradesh. Look at leadership crisis in Uttarakhand. Look at it in Goa, Punjab too.
Okay. So you're making it seem as if it's really no big deal. ये तो होता रहता है in election season.
No, it's not a big deal.
Even in Goa, you've got people leaving the BJP. In Uttar Pradesh, you've got the likes of Swami Prasad Maurya, Saini Singh leaving the BJP for the SP, and therefore Rakesh Sinha. This is really no big deal. In election season, this is opportunism. ऐसा तो होता रहता है. The Congress says there's no place in the new Congress for cowards.
No, it is not simple that Jaykumar is explaining. You see the trend of the Congress. There's some top leadership of the Congress which belongs to new generation. Why are they leaving? It's not a question of opportunism. It's not the question of looking for the becoming a green horse. You just see the Hemant Biswa Sarma. What was his comment when he went to meet Rahul Gandhi? Why Jyoti Aditya Rajesh Scindia left the party? Why RPN Singh, who has been well placed in the Congress, was General Secretary in charge of a state where party was a part of the ruling coalition, and he left the party? The reason is that there is a shift in the Congress. Shift is not a question of ideology, does not exist because Congress is becoming irrelevant as far as ideology is concerned. The shift is that earlier the dynasty had the background of struggle. Dynasty had the background of the organizational leadership. Now the new dynasty of the Congress, which is a troika of Sonia, Rahul and Priyanka, they are running the private enterprises. Earlier the dynasty were running the public enterprises. This means they were acknowledging the differences. They were acknowledging the talents. Indira Gandhi searched P.V. Narasimha Rao from Andhra. He was their education minister, brought him in Delhi. So she was always in search of the good talents. And still, she required loyalty, that definitely a loyalty. But now this loyalty is shifted, is substituted by the slavery. This troika required the people to be slave. That's why Prime Minister Modi said once that Congress Mukt Bharat, it was not a content for one of the oldest party. It was, he was tracing the trend, tradition and the shift in the Congress which is making it irrelevant. So I call it a lemming tendency of the Congress, the suicidal tendency of the party. But what is more important, you know, when
you haven't answered the bit about Jaykumar asking you why people are leaving the BJP. If there was Ram Rajya in the BJP, the likes of Swami Prasad Maurya and 10 other MLAs, some who were ministers in the Yogi government wouldn't have left.
I'm coming to that. You know, there are two kinds of people. When you don't get a required opportunity, you defy the party's collective leadership. Our parties run with there are formal structures. Tickets are decided not in the 10 Janpath. In our party, not in someone's home. It is a parliamentary party which releases ticket. There is some formal structure. So we have two formal and informal structure. We are the only party in the nation which can claim that we are in true sense democratic, whether internal democracy is concerned, formal structure, but I am coming to that point. Jaykumar mentioned the name of late Manohar Parikar's son. You know, this is the very healthy trend. Narendra Modi ji, when 2014 came, you can count many names that you have dynasty and all that. What Modi ji said that time, what he is telling our leaders, जो पसीना बहाते हैं पार्टी में, उनको महत्व मिलना चाहिए. Now, because Manohar Parrikar was a great leader, that does not qualify his son to become a candidate. Party decided. No, party is trying to minimize that trend. This is the most healthy trend party has inaugurated in Indian politics.
You know, I wish what you were saying was true, because the person who got that particular seat in the Panjim constituency is actually a turncoat who came from the Congress. He's a turncoat who came from the Congress, and Rajdeep can tell you more because that's where he comes from. But in that neck of the woods, he's known as a strong man kind of image. So it's not as if you've given the ticket to a very clean candidate.
Rahul, you are talking of the empirical fact. You know that in politics there is subjective elements which are very important. What I am talking, it is not that Rakesh Sinha is leaving party or Rahul is joining some party. That is one of the criteria judging the things. But these are the objective. But subjective facts are more important in a party democracy. What is the trend? Trend is that party is trying to minimize the role of dynasty in the politics. Number one. Party is taking decision on the form.
No, that's a fair point. Otherwise, Manohar Parrikar, if he were in the Congress, his son would have more likely got a ticket, and that's a fair point. Okay, so that's a fair point. Okay, now I want to focus on what happened in Eastern Uttar Pradesh, and more importantly in Padrauna. Remember, Padrauna is the assembly constituency. RPN Singh has been fighting there from 1993. In 1993, he lost. He picked up about 17% of the vote, got 22,000 votes. But SP's Baleshwar Yadav actually won that seat. But RPN won in 1996, 2002 and 2007. This is the Padrauna assembly seat. Then he went over to the Lok Sabha in 2009. He picked up about 2,22,000 odd votes. 2014, he had 2,84,000 votes. 2019, he had 1,46,000 votes, where he came third, about 13% of the total votes. RPN Singh versus Swami Prasad Maurya, if that's the way Padrauna shapes up, Rahul Srivastav, it will be one of the big battles of Eastern Uttar Pradesh and also of the entire state. What do you think might happen? What are the political ramifications in the neck of the woods where RPN comes from?
Rahul, the biggest important critical factor why RPN Singh joined the BJP is the fact that the caste and the grouping in that caste, the Kurmi Saintwal that RPN Singh belongs to, has been voting for the BJP for the last 3 elections. Now, he is supposed to be representative of a caste which is already voting for the BJP. There is not left much for him as far as being part of the Congress party is concerned. You see, there is a crisis being faced by a lot of these young leaders. I have spoken to 2-3 of them today who left the Congress party, that what they are saying, that they have virtually no future in the Congress because the veterans have not been dealt with. The veterans are being sidelined. The G23 is still around, virtually suspended. And that's why they want to quit the Congress party and join something like the BJP. Now, what does the BJP get out of it? The BJP knows that RPN Singh community caste, Sainthwal Kurmis are already voting for it. But at a time when the election is turning more mandal than kamandal, and Akhilesh Yadav is creating critical coalitions which are can be effective on the ground with Rajbars, Mahandal and others in eastern UP, it can have a very strong impact. The BJP needs to send out a signal that the OBCs and the MBCs are still finding BJP as a favorite destination, more magnetic. The BJP still is magnetic as far as these castes are concerned. So RPN Singh has been brought in. I talked to a senior leader. What he indicated was कि जब आंधी ना हो तो हवा बनानी चाहिए. So what the BJP is trying to do is send out these signals by bringing in leaders like RPN Singh. Also, Rahul, very importantly, what the BJP is trying to do is, at a time when the Samjwadi Party is the main rival to the BJP, by bringing in people like RPN Singh, it is slowly propping the Congress party as a player in Uttar Pradesh. And that's why you saw at one time the opposition given to Priyanka Gandhi going to various places, say Sonbhadra, Hathras and others. Perhaps the BJP is pushing that the Congress should become a smaller micro player so that it can eat into the votes of Samajwadi Party and the other rivals of the BJP. That's what is an interesting play in Eastern UP.
There is political hawa and then there is hot air. Congress at this moment in Uttar Pradesh is more hot air than any political narrative. But what could really be materially significant with RPN gone is the JMM, Congress, RJD, NCP and CPIM government in Jharkhand, where Rajdeep, RPN was critical. Both of us traveled to Jharkhand. He was the General Secretary. He's close to Hemant Soren. He's virtually the Dada of the Congress over there. All the MLAs, many of the MLAs swear by him. He gave them tickets. He's been in close touch. And there's been a lot of talk of how his absence now from the Congress could jeopardize the Congress delegation in that JMM-led alliance in Jharkhand. Do you think Hemant Soren's government is now in danger?
Well, there's been this talk, Rahul, and it's gone on for about 6 months that ever since speculation was there that RPN Singh could be on his way out, that could he also bring along Congress MLAs from Jharkhand and bring down the government there. No signs of that as yet. Clearly no signs of that as yet. Remember, this is a government fully at the moment with a complete majority. It's not a wafer-thin majority like it was in Madhya Pradesh. If you look at the numbers there, the MLAs supporting Soren are 52. So he's got a comfortable majority in that Jharkhand assembly. It would require 2/3 of the Congress MLAs, that is about 12 of the 18 to leave for the government to get into a situation.
Rajdeep,
yes.
The JMM has only 30, the halfway house is 41. So the total house strength is 82 with one nominated member.
But you would
and the
need
Congress is 18. So without the Congress, if 2/3 of the Congress people go,
yes.
So let's assume 12 go, then the JMM is at 30. If you add RJD, CPIM, NCP and the independent, Suraiya Rai, they don't have a majority.
Yeah, you see, anything is possible in politics, Rahul, but as Rahul Srivastav said, I think the immediate aim of using RPN Singh is Eastern UP. Whether Jharkhand happens in the future, we don't know. At the moment, the BJP was keen to check the narrative that OBCs and non-Yadav OBCs are leaving the BJP in large numbers. You get in an RPN Singh, the headlines change, the narrative changes. Last week it was Akhilesh Yadav's sister-in-law who joins the BJP. Today it is RPN. This is all an attempt by the BJP to change the narrative that it's not as if people are leaving them in Uttar Pradesh, people are joining them as well. So I think RPN fitted in with that specific narrative. It came at a time, and a word that Sanjay Jha used is very important: hope. I think the problem at the moment for the Congress is there's a large number of congressmen who don't see clear hope or a clear future for themselves in the Congress. Politicians at the end of the day in today's world are careerists. They're looking for a future. They're not seeing a future where the Congress is likely to come back to power in the near term. Rahul Gandhi has told a lot of his aides, our aim is to push towards 2029 and even beyond if it requires that. We are here for the long run. Now, he may be here for the long run, but politicians like RPN Singh and many others will be in for the short run. They want to know what immediate targets does the Congress have to win the next elections. Remember, 2022, Rahul, is a critical year for the Congress, because if you look at all the states, most of them, barring Uttar Pradesh, have Congress versus BJP fights. You can leave aside Punjab, where BJP is irrelevant, and Uttar Pradesh, where Congress is irrelevant. All the other states have a Congress versus BJP fight. If the Congress were to win those, you might see the wind change. Look, the fact is, Rahul, at the moment, that unless the Congress is able to convince a large number of this generation of leaders that it has a clear strategy for the future to win elections in the near term, many of them who see politics as a career will perhaps look at options beyond the Congress. It's as simple as that. There is no great commitment to a sort of ideological direction in which perhaps Rahul Gandhi wants to take the Congress in this fight against the RSS. So I think you have to locate RPN within these various contexts, but specifically at the moment within the context of the politics of Eastern UP, particularly post what happened to Swami Prasad Maurya.
You know, Ajay Kumar comes from Jharkhand, was in charge of the Congress in Jharkhand as the party president. He then left to join the Aam Aadmi Party. He's been MP from Jamshedpur before he joined the Congress. He's also been superintendent of police in East Singhbhum in 94 and 96, and therefore understands the politics of Jharkhand, even though he's now more deployed in Sikkim and Tripura. I have seen the kind of equation that RPN Singh has with these Congress MLAs. The Congress is 18. If he takes 12 of them, the Congress government along with the JMM government in Jharkhand could be in trouble in your home state, Ajay Kumar. Could it be like a Jyotiraditya-like deal that you come, we'll give you a cabinet and we'll possibly change who's in charge in the state of Jharkhand?
Look, Rahul, to be honest with you, for 2 years, the Bharatiya Janata Party and some arms dealer, that's what I heard, and it needs to be verified, have been trying to do it in Jharkhand. Rajdeep will know, you will know it. Whether RPN was a part of that that thing, I have no clue on it. So I'm not going to make a insinuation also. I don't know. But the fact is that the BJP has been trying for 2 years. And they failed miserably for 2 years. And then RPN having equity, I mean, it's a joke because you asked Mr.
But they didn't have RPN Singh. He knows the MLAs. Many of them he gave tickets to.
I was the president when the seats were decided.
Yes, go on.
It was decided during the Lok Sabha election before the Vidhan Sabha. So those are different issues. So Rahul, with all responsibility, the question again is, post RPN's exit, every MLA is being bringing up everybody they know, saying that, listen, they are with the party. So the issue is not that. The issue is when you're in charge, you have certain leverages. And you would definitely try to. You think people are wedded to RPN because of his leadership in Jharkhand? I don't think so. There were other good secretaries. And so will it impact the Jharkhand government with all my, and not to say it as a congressman, I'm going to step back for a minute. As an honest political observer, it will not have any impact for sure. The Hemant Soren government is strong because the politicians who are fighting from those seats understand that they need to be in that alliance to win next time, or at least have a good chance. The social, whether it is the tribal, scheduled caste, backward vote combination which the JMM Congress gets in, will ensure that these 18 guys will have a very difficult time if they make the switch. So the question is, it's not that, not only is the question of loyalty to the party, but more important is their own political survival. That if they make that move, I believe in all those 18 seats which I can look at, it would be a harakiri. So, and Rajiv correctly said the first thing a politician understands is his self-survival. So it's most unlikely, Rahul, with my limited political understanding, but reasonably.
You know, but in Madhya Pradesh, the Congress MLAs left with Jyotiraditya Scindia and they brought down a government even though they were sitting in government like these Congress MLAs. So we will hold the verdict out on what happens because that really needs to play itself out. But I want Rakesh Sinha to respond to the point that Rahul Srivastav made, that the real fight in Uttar Pradesh is with the Samajwadi Party. It's BJP versus Samajwadi Party. BSP is a sideshow and Congress is on the margins. They've taken 3 of your ministers. They've taken 10 plus MLAs in total. You are getting the Raebareli Congress MLA. You are getting RPN Singh. That's hot air, hawabazi. The real game is between BJP and the Samajwadi Party. And is this in some senses just an attempt to build a political narrative in Uttar Pradesh? Dr. Sinha.
You know, the way they are portraying that, some people are portraying that BJP is being deserted by the OBC leadership is a delusion. In fact, Bharatiya Janata Party is not the Bharatiya Janata Party of 1970s, 1980s. The Bharatiya Janata Party is horizontal and the vertical expansion in terms of geography, in terms of the social base. Our social engineering is not just like a ceremonial thing or ornamental thing. It is with conviction party has done. You go in any state, our base is now inclusive. We are the party with the inclusive leadership, inclusive programs. That's why, and more important thing is that those who are leaving the party, you know the obvious reasons. Someone, I am giving example of Swami Prasad Maurya. He wanted his son to contest. I told you that Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has made a very, very healthy intervention in the Indian politics. There are certain ills must be set off. It cannot be done in one time. You can say that there are many ills, but the trend has started and assertively we have started. Second important thing is that parties rich in the Uttar Pradesh are two reasons. One is the UP Chief Minister's performance. And second is the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's aura had transcended many limits. What the RPN Singh today said, that is very obvious that his leadership has transcended many ideological taboos. Just like that socialism, you are talking of the socialism, all the political parties, including CPM and Congress. And it is the BJP which has been implementing things which were required in the socialist regime. That coming to the marginalized people, most marginalized people, we have created a new caste of the poor. That is irrespective of the caste and community. So you cannot undermine the role of the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, and he is influencing the people. Many people are coming. Ideology is one region or nation is other region. We are in power, that one can critically say. But Prime Minister Modi's aura is a very, very important factor. One more important thing, Rahul, which one must note that.
Okay,
in Uttar
so
Pradesh,
Rahul Srivastava,
we have to contest somebody.
and Sanjay Jha, one final question
We are not
about what might happen from
but
here.
one thing I'm
Are there more people who are in the exit pipeline? Sanjay Jha, you're on the phone through the day with many of the current and former leaders of the Congress. Do you think there are more youngsters or older people who could jump ship?
Well, there are a lot of people who are disgruntled for sure. I'm not going to deny that. But the people I know have no intention whatsoever of leaving the Congress at all. And, that is the fundamental point where I disagree with my very good friend Ajay. You see, Ajay, when he says that, the BJP is losing people, of course they are. I mean, Goa, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand is happening all over the place. But you see, there is an advantage when you are the government in power. You see, when you are the winning political party, you have the luxury of a couple of these losses. But if you're in the opposition, and you've been in the opposition in Uttar Pradesh for decades, in the central government now for over 8 years, then you have a monumental challenge, and therefore you need your flock to be together. So I would say we are not making a fair comparison. The BJP is still at an advantage, whether Mr. Maurya and other people have left from the OBC or not. And the more critical point, Rahul, that I think we need to embrace here, the Congress, in my opinion, and this is one of the reasons why I was extremely unhappy when, my fracas happened with the Congress, is as an opposition party, you have a big responsibility in a democracy. People see you as a shadow government and you should act like one. I believe being the principal opposition party is
so Rahul Srivastava, in conclusion, do you know the nature of the deal that RPN Singh has stitched with the BJP? Will he be fighting the Padrauna election, or is he more inclined towards a Rajya Sabha seat and possibly something at the cabinet in the centre if at all such an offer were to be made to him?
Rahul, what we are being told is that if you look at the trends, see for example Jiten Prasada set to contest elections, you have Yogi Adityanath being fielded, you have all the leaders being fielded. What the BJP wants, it's crack team, all leaders to be on the ground fighting elections. So the first indications that are coming that there is a possibility that RPN Singh could well be contesting elections as far as this assembly election is concerned. What is becoming more critical, Rahul, in this election is that the BJP seems to have shifted the demographic base of the party, in which leaders like, say, Jiten Prasada, for example, when you speak to him, he says that my whole community is voting for the BJP. Now, how can I stay out? It's not like Rajbar, who controls the vote of the Rajbar. He takes the vote with him. Right now, what is happening? The votes are taking the leaders with them. The switch is happening because on the ground, the voters are with a particular party. And that is why in this election, caste remains very critical, and the BJP is trying to create these little building blocks to build a perception that the castes which had voted for the party in the last 3 elections are still with the party.
Okay, remember, it's an important tactical ploy also, because they lost Swami Maurya in that area, on that seat, and therefore they've patched that gap with a suitable replacement. So what if the replacement wasn't within, but had to be brought from without the party? We'll track what happens very carefully. I want to thank my guests for joining us. We're slipping into a break. When we come back,